I'm going to start with slide. Well, hello, everybody. I didn't realize we'd gone live. Good evening. I hope you're all having a fantastic summer night. And I am so happy that you guys are here with us again for our weekly cruise chat for Canadians, where we share our information with you. So I'm just going to pop over to this slide quickly and just talk to you a little bit about who we are and what we're doing. So, like I said, welcome everybody. We are Vacations for Canadians. I'm Tina Dowd. I'm the proud owner of this agency. And we have some of our team here with us. We have Karen. We have Linda, who is our marketing IT support. We have Luke, and we have Rick. And we might have some other agents pop in at some point. They're all welcome to join us every time we're on this chat. And what we do, well, we're a cruise travel agency. We focus on cruises, and we try and help you find the best cruise for you, that perfect cruise. So tonight, we want to talk about Norway and the Arctic Circle. Karen just got back not that long ago. She's done it. She's been there. She's going to tell us all about it and why we need to go soon. I don't know if that's coming up in your presentation, Karen, but you might want to bring that up.
We'll talk about that.
Yeah, and then we also have our spotlight, which is Rick, and he's going to talk about river cruising. And Rick just got back from a river cruise as well. And honestly, both of them are raving about their cruises. So we want to share that information with you. Then you want to stick around to the end. We're going to have a Q&A. You can ask all your cruise questions. No questions off the table. As long as it's cruising, we're here to answer. We'll do our best to answer them. If we can't get you the answer right away, we'll get it for you later, but we're here to help. We are your experts in cruising. And then stick around to the very end because we always give away a swag giveaway. So tonight we're doing, Karen is talking about Norway, the Arctic Circle and Fjords, and Rick is going to talk about river cruising. I just want to let you all know that next week we are not going to be online as we have our annual team building event that we are all going to be at. So we're all going to be together and we're going to be doing our own fun stuff, and we're taking a week off. So, and look at you already, some of you commenting. So you guys know the drill. If you want to be in the draw at the end of the event, make sure you pop your name in there with where you're viewing from, and you will be added to the wheel of names at the end. All right, so we are going to get started with Karen. So Karen, take it away.
Thank you, Tina. So when I was thinking about what topic to discuss and really what area I wanted to talk about, Norway came instantly to mind because, as Tina mentioned, I just returned from there back in June, and it was my third visit actually that I've been there. And you know, I've shared my excitement about Norway to all my friends, my colleagues, and my family. And now I'm excited to share it with you as well, because it is a beautiful, beautiful place to visit. I'm going to share with you when the best time to go is, depending upon what you're looking for. There's some very different times when you can sail there, and you're going to get a very different experience, as well as a couple of key areas. Now, of course, Norway is big and there's a lot of great places you can visit, but I will share with you a few that typically end up on our cruise itineraries and give you some highlights of what you might want to see or what you might want to do when you're there, and then a couple of tips and tricks along the way of the must-sees while you're visiting Norway. So Norway is a very popular destination, and I always get a little bit excited when one of my clients says they're thinking about going to Norway, because it is just so beautiful. I am going to share with you a couple of my personal photos that I've taken along the way, and as I say, you know, a picture's worth 1,000 words, and in Norway it's really worth 1,000,000. And I think you will agree that it is just absolutely spectacular. If you've been there before, let us know about your travels, because it is just one of those places that you have to see to believe, because it just everywhere is just stunningly beautiful. So, you know, when I was thinking about who should visit Norway, it's kind of interesting because this is a delightful place for almost anybody. So if you're a photographer, this is a place to go because there's nature, there's wildlife, there's, you know, the ocean, there's the fjords, there's so much, the mountains, the snow caps, beautiful places to photograph. You really can't take a bad picture. So it's one of those spots where you're almost camera happy. Just every place you look, it's just, let's grab this and a camera. And thank goodness we're not in the film days anymore, because it would cost a mint to get them developed. People who enjoy hiking and being out in nature, this is a great, great place. You can do as much or as little hiking as you want. Of course, it's very mountainous. So all you need to do is grab those hiking shoes and a walking stick, and away you go. Just take a path and see what you discover. The bottom picture on the left there, that's kind of maps. And I think of that because my husband is a physical geographer by education, and he loves telling me all about the fjords and how they were built, and or not built, how they're formed, and how deep the water is and why it is the way it is. And it is quite interesting when you start to look at all the different formations and whatnot. So it's definitely a geographer's haven, and also for cruisers who've done a lot of other cruising. So maybe you haven't been to Scandinavia, haven't been to Norway, and you're thinking, where do I want to go next? And this is something a little bit different and a very, very easy sail. So really it is for anybody. If you're thinking about Norway though, there's a few reasons why you might want to get that up on your list and do it soon. One of them is because there's a bit of a rumor and rumbling going around that they're not going to allow the bigger ships going into these fjords for very much longer. So if you're thinking about going to Norway, I would recommend, like I said, prioritizing that, because there's still sailings out there. We're seeing them into 26, but you don't want to get to a point where you say, hey, I'd love to go, but those availabilities are not there. It's not an easy land trip. I mean, because of, geography, obviously you're not able to just grab a car and just kind of tour around. So it is definitely a cruise kinds of destination, and one that I would recommend thinking about sooner than later. So the first question I always think, my clients ask is, when do I want to go? And, it's quite interesting because a lot of people were asking me, did I see the Northern Lights when I was there? Because of course people think of that and that they go hand in hand together. And actually we were there in the summertime. We just got back in June and we saw the opposite. We didn't see any Northern Lights. We actually saw sun all day long. So the peak season is really spring through fall, depending upon what you want to get out of it. I'll talk about the weather in a bit, but when we were there early June, but June 21st is actually when that summer solstice happens. So thinking about how that sensation feels when the sun literally doesn't set, it's quite remarkable. If you haven't experienced it before in your travels, it is quite amazing. This is a photograph that I took when we were heading back to our cabin after the show. So it's probably around 10 or 11 o'clock at night, and the sun literally doesn't set. So it's kind of one of those unique feelings where you don't know when to go to bed, you don't know when to wake up, you don't know when to eat, so you just do it all, and you just kind of let your intuition guide you. But it is really remarkable. And the great thing about going at this time of year is, if you're an early riser, you can get out on your balcony or on your deck and take a look around, and you can just always see the beautiful, beautiful sights around you. You don't have to wait until sunrise. But if you're looking for that perfect sunset, this is not your time to go, because you just won't find it. If you are looking, though, for those Northern Lights, you're going to need to kind of go on the shoulder season. So, of course, with Norway, they've got all daylight in the summertime. They've got all nighttime in the wintertime. So quite interesting, considering these are among the happiest people in the world, which when I think about that and how I feel in the wintertime, I'm looking to get a cruise to get that sunshine. It's remarkable to me that they can kind of celebrate the little bits of sunshine that they might get through the fall and the winter. But the party sure happens in the summer. But if you are looking to get those Northern Lights, you're going to want to go in March or April or September, October. That's when you're going to find the best lights, and certainly something that sounds absolutely remarkable. I know we've seen a lot of that kind of activity here in Ontario this past year, so it would be very exciting to see in a best northern spot there. So where can you embark if you were to go on a cruise? Well, I've done 3. The first one I did was a Scandinavia cruise, and that was on Princess, and we left out of Copenhagen. And in that cruise, we did Norway technically, but we did Oslo. So it wasn't the fjords. It was obviously Oslo is a bigger city. So we're not going to really speak so much about that one, but it is possible to get a bit of a flavor if you're looking for that in a Scandinavian cruise, where you'd also visit the other Scandinavian countries. And the other 2 that I did, one was out of Southampton on Princess as well, and then most recently out of Amsterdam. So you've got some really nice spots to embark from, depending upon when you go, what cruise line and whatnot. You have some choices. So, of course, when you think of Norway and cruising, you're probably thinking about the fjords, and they are unbelievably beautiful. So, like I mentioned, I'm not going to go through every single stop because there's so many of them, and they all have a similar kind of flavor to them in some way, shape, or form. But essentially, this photo is taken from our balcony as we were sailing into Geiranger, and as you can see, it is a windy, windy path that is it's got to be quite a challenge for the pilots to navigate through because while the fjords are very deep, they're very, very windy. So the great thing about going in the summertime is you can see, like I said, you open up your blinds and from your balcony and you see this beautiful scenery that's ever changing all every minute of the day. So the great thing about this is you don't have to worry about what side of the ship your balcony is on because either side is going to be perfect, and it's just ever changing. So just keep your camera handy and going, and just take as many pictures as you can. And as you can see in that photo there, it's very, very smooth too. It's smooth sailing because you're in among the two big mountainsides in the fjord, so you don't get a lot of chop or rocky. So that's a good thing as well. We also visited the North Cape, and that was a really, really, really cool experience. So, a good portion of Norway is actually in the Arctic Circle, which is interesting. And so of course, from a interest perspective, this particular stop was in Honningsvåg, and we did a bus tour, which took us all the way to that Northern Cape, which is the picture on the top right hand corner there. And luckily for us, we got there just in the nick of time where it wasn't cloudy, it wasn't rainy, the weather was quite perfect. About an hour later, though, the buses that came in behind us, they didn't get so lucky, and everything turned into a big fog, and all they got was fog soup. So the weather does change on a dime there. You can see I'm wearing a rain cape, and that's because the rain was looming. And one thing you definitely want to be doing is making sure you've got layers because if it does start to rain, it gets kind of a chilly wind that goes with it, and that can be less fun if you're soaking wet from top to bottom. But if you've got the right equipment with you, you're good to go. At the North Cape, so we did a tour with a company called Blue Puffin, and they do many bus tours up at this area. They're a couple who own this great company, and while it was a big bus tour, they took us to the beautiful fishing villages to see the little seaside areas where people reside. They introduced us to a Sami, and a Sami is somebody who's a native to the land and they actually farm reindeer and whatnot. So really interesting history on that. But definitely the piece de resistance was actually being at this North Cape. Now, on the boat, we actually celebrated a little bit with a blue nose dip, which is apparently a tradition that they have as sailors cross into the Arctic Circle. And in this blue nose dip, people who were crazy brave or both had blue nose paint applied to their face, and they actually dove into the pool on board, which would have been very frosty given the time of the year. But a lot of people lined up for it, and they said they did it. I did not, but it was fun to watch other people dive in and get frostbite almost, I guess. So next we'll go into a few different towns. The first one that we'll talk about is Stavanger. This is a very, very popular port of call, which is where the Pulpit Rock was found. So you can see that photo in the top right-hand corner there. That is people standing on the rock. If you want to do a hike, it's a bit of a hike and drive up that way. We did a boat tour on that particular sailing, so we saw it from the bottom up, so that photograph is not my own. But when you walk off the port, you have beautiful little towns of wooden houses that are all brightly decorated with their beautiful flowers. It's a wonderful walking town. You can do a hop-on, hop-off bus. They have the rib boats, which are very, very popular if you want to do something a little bit more exhilarating and thrilling, that go up and down the fjords. It's a lovely, lovely stop. To just kind of explore and get to take it all in, have some nice food. They've got lovely pubs right by the ship that you can visit as well. And then Geiranger is another popular stop, and this one was a lot of fun. So what we did in Geiranger is we rented one of these little vehicles. They're little electric vehicles called Twizzies, and that's me sitting in the back of them. You kind of ride with the driver in front of you and the one person behind. There's no windows. You just kind of drive up this windy, crazy road. And that photo on the right-hand side is actually an image of the road that we drove up. So the idea is you drive all the way up to the very top. You can stop and take photos along the way. And then on the way down, it's like, it's quite exciting. And, the wind blowing in your hair and whatnot. These hairpin turns are something else. friends of ours who were also sailing on the same cruise. They did a bus tour up, and they did the same route essentially. I would say ours was a lot more fun because we had got to drive that cool little vehicle. But I can imagine looking down off those cliffs in a bus might have been kind of interesting as well. So lots of fun, but the drive up there is absolutely worth it. This is a photo of my husband Mike looking over at our ship from one of the viewing points, and it is just beautiful. So you can see we're right at the cloud line essentially. So when it does get cloudy, it does kind of shelter everything in and compacts everything. But you can see our ship there sitting there waiting for us, and it was just absolutely stunning to just take in that fresh air and to look at all the different areas to view. So one thing I wanted to mention as well about when you want to visit Norway, this photo doesn't show it, but if you go in the spring or late spring, so early, May, June timeframe, there's still snow caps on the mountains. And the beauty of that is, of course, because you can see the snow cap, but also as the snow is melting, it starts to create little rivers down the side of the mountainside. So as you're sailing, you can actually see the waterfalls coming in and out of the mountain, which is lovely as well. And then I have to speak about Flam, because Flam is a very, very popular stop in Norway. And with Flam, it's a must do the train. So it's literally steps off the boat. You walk off, there's the train sitting there, and it's an old fashioned cog train. And this train takes you up and around, and actually it's kind of a train to nowhere in essence, but the view is outstanding. And you stop at one point, there's a hotel that's out that way. And when we got off at the hotel, they were waiting for us with waffles and fresh jam that they had just made. And it was a lovely experience just to see how that all goes. But the train ride itself was extraordinary. It's just absolutely one of those, again, the pinch me kind of moments where you're looking at the window and you just don't want to blink because you don't want to miss a thing. The waterfalls, the green pastures, the animals, it was just absolutely incredible. So if you find yourself in Flam, do take the train. I don't remember what the cost was, but it was one that I would absolutely recommend because it just is a perfect way to spend several hours. And of course, in that town, there's lots of great things to see and do as well, such as your souvenir shopping and whatnot. But the train is the absolute highlight. It is just dynamite. And then going further north, we've got Tromsø. So Tromsø is just below Hannesvag, and it is in the Arctic Circle as well. And in Tromsø, again, you could do a lovely day tour filled with fishing villages and reindeer just frolicking all over the place. It was a beautiful, beautiful place. This is where they do a lot of training for the Olympics. Actually, they have ski launches where the Olympic athletes train for that year-round, and where I learned that Norway has one of the highest numbers of medalists in the Olympics as well. I guess given their climate and their hills, they would be darn good at skiing for sure. So what do you need to bring? I mean, I think it's probably the usual stuff. The one thing that is different is, of course, you need their kroner. So the Norwegian kroner is important to have on hand because that is the currency that you would use. And from a rough estimate, it wasn't an exact science, but 1,000 kroner is about $130 Canadian. That's today. So what we did is we just kind of bumped over the decimal a few points just to give us a rough idea of how much things were costing. Because of course, you buy a little stuffed animal and you see it's however many thousands of kroner, and you think, wow, this is really expensive. But when you actually kind of do the math, it's not so bad. Definitely your camera. You need to have your camera. If you've got binoculars, bring those as well. Really good running shoes, are very important because you're going to get any type of weather, but also because as you're strolling along, you might find a path that you didn't anticipate noticing. So it's always good to be well equipped with really comfortable shoes. It's not a flip-flop kind of place because you're always, walking up and down stairs and hiking a little bit. Definitely worth packing those shoes, as well as making sure you've got rain gear. So I had a light poncho that I would just kind of tie up and put in my knapsack every day, just to be sure that we had everything we needed. We only needed it a few times, but it's good to have some waterproof boots if you're going to be out there because, sometimes you're there for the day and that's what you've got. So you don't want to, waste your time being wet. That's for sure. And of course, there's the trolls everywhere. So I don't know if you know the story of the trolls, but these trolls, they're cute to the point that they're ugly, or ugly to the point they're cute, however you want to say it. But they're everywhere. They're standing, yay high outside every gift shop that is in Norway. Apparently, it brings them good luck. So you rub their nose, you have your photos taken, and away you go. Obviously, this one's a little bit taller. We're not that short, although we're not tall people. But this one was, kind of out for display. And of course, the photo of our ship there waiting for us to return back and to take us to the next destination. So Norway is just one of those beautiful, beautiful places. It really is. There's glaciers, there's waterfalls, there's green pastures, there's hiking trails, there's everything you can possibly imagine. And once there's no way you'll want to leave. And I really do believe that. Like I said, I've been there on two cruises that were very, very fjord in that type of intensive type of voyage, as well as one that's a highlight of Scandinavia. And they're absolutely part of the highlights of all of my cruises. There's no shortage of beauty. If you have the opportunity to go, I do recommend that you do. If you've got any questions or looking for itinerary options, shoot us an email. Let us know that you're thinking about it, because there's a lot of great ones out there. Most cruise lines are heading to Norway right now, so there's no shortage of different itineraries to get you to the right place.
All right. Thank you, Karen. That was great. So I've actually booked Norway for myself next year because I'm not taking the chance. With the looming news, which we aren't really sure what it all means yet for cruising, but yeah. So one of the things that I found out when I was doing some research into going into Norway is if you book with Hurtigruten, that's a Norwegian company, and they actually go right through the winter.
Wow.
So as long as you don't mind the cold, you'll definitely get the northern lights on that sailing.
Oh, that would be unbelievable, actually, wouldn't it? Where else? Why go to the Caribbean when you can go to Norway, right?
Exactly.
That'd be an experience of a lifetime, though. That would be just
yes. And we actually stopped there this year. We did our Ireland cruise, but we had a couple of stops in Norway. And one of the things we did was the rib boats in Kristiansand. And it was fun.
Yeah.
I mean, if you know me, you know I'm a bit of an adventure seeker, but I dragged my husband and he really enjoyed it too. So it was a lot of fun doing those rib boats.
It looks amazing. Wetsuit away and away you go, right? You're going to get one on that one.
It's like riding a horse. You don't even sit. You just have like a little stool, and you kind of you're on your feet the whole time, and you just use that little stool to kind of take the impact, while you're bouncing up and down. It's a lot of fun. Anyways, you got to do it.
Got to do. Well, for the record, my little cruise that I did, it was like a scenic cruise. It was not. I didn't get wet. I didn't have to wear any special gear or anything like that. But it was beautiful. Not quite as maybe heart thumping as yours, but it was. It sounds like an amazing, amazing trip. A lot of guests were doing that type of excursion. They said it was just out of this.
Yeah.
Such fun.
Yeah, and it was Kristiansand was really cute. Like you actually got off the ship, and where we docked, it was a fish market, but you wouldn't know it. It didn't smell, and it wasn't dirty. It was really cute. So it just looked like this little, like really cute little, I don't know what you would call it, like this little area right off the water, and then we found out after it was a fish market. So.
Okay, there you go.
All right. Anyways, okay, well, let's move on to Rick. So Rick, just like I said, Rick just came back from his river cruise. So he wants to share with you guys all about that.
Oh, yeah. We had a great time on our river cruise. I could rename this presentation River Cruising 101. There's a lot of information here. At the end, you'll see some highlights of our trip. We had a great trip. This is maybe our 26th cruise, and this is going to be one of our highlights we're going to remember for a long time. If you like the small ship experience, river cruising is what you need. Anyway, so what we're going to be discussing about is river versus ocean. What are the major differences? What rivers do they sail on? And river cruises, they come also in themes, you'll see when I get to it. What are the major river cruise lines that do the river cruises? What's a typical deck plan and how to choose a cabin. And then I'll go through some of the highlights quickly if time allows. So river versus ocean. So we're all familiar with the big ocean ships, up to 6,000 people. Our ship had 166 people and it was sold out. And at the end of the week, we knew everybody. And when we started, we didn't know anybody. So that's the kind of tour cruise that we really enjoyed it. Where does it sail? Major rivers of the world. I have some slides on that. Versus ocean, it's oceans and the seas of the world. Smooth sailing is almost assured because there's no waves to speak of. Whereas in the ocean, some people may feel some of the motion on the oceans. Who's going on the river cruises? You'll see mostly baby boomers. We had some children, but not many on the ship. Whereas an ocean cruise, you'll have all ages. If you like daily tours, river cruise is what you're looking for. We had a tour every day. Whereas ocean, you have the mix. You have a balance of sea days where you just relax if you want, and you have tours on the islands. In terms of value, everything's included. Very little things that you have to dig into your pocket for. Whereas ocean, you typically have some extras if you didn't have it all up front. And entertainment, it's a little bit limited compared to ocean cruise. Ocean cruise has a live entertainment, the big Broadway type shows, whereas the entertainment would be quieter in the evening, a little music group, dancing, that kind of stuff. So where do they sail? This slide is out of sequence. 1 second. Oops, missing a slide. Okay, so the slide that's missing speaks about the Rhine, the Danube, the Douro in Portugal. These are the major cruise rivers that people go for. The Rhine is the one we were on. The other rivers that you can go on is the Mekong, and I believe Tina has been on that one as well. And the Nile, there's a lot of interest in the Nile in Egypt. And there's some river cruises in South Africa and in Colombia. And there's others as well. I just couldn't put them all in here. In terms of themes, there's Christmas market. So if you go November, December timeframe, all the cities that the cruise is going to stop at will have Christmas themes, and that's no exaggeration, that picture. There's a huge Christmas festival, if you will, at almost every stop, and it's something to experience. If you like the tulips in the springtime in Amsterdam, they have some sailings dedicated to that. And I just posted one last week on that on our Facebook page.
Rick, if I can just cut in here, I'm sorry, because I think that was probably me that missed that slide. I think if I'm going to take an educated guess, the top left one is the Danube. The top right one would be the Rhine, because it would be starting in Amsterdam.
Yes.
And the bottom right one would be the Douro, just so you can kind of get an idea of what you'll see when you're on those rivers, because those are really popular rivers, especially for first-time cruisers, the Rhine and the Danube.
Yeah, the music one would be something like to Vienna, for example. So there's different categories in river cruises, just like an ocean. So we break it into two groups: luxury and ultra luxury, if you will. Emerald, the Ammo waterways, Avalon, Viking. We saw a lot of these, and there's also one in the States, the American Cruise Lines, where you can go up the Mississippi, a whole bunch of rivers in the States that we could sell you a cruise for. Most of these shore excursions. There's a happy hour typically included where the drinks are included. Wine and beer is at the meals included, and they have an excellent level of service. When you want to go a little step above, the ultra luxury, they have the Talk, the Scenic, Uniworld. We all sell those as well. And all the shore excursions will be included, whereas in the luxury, you'll have one per day, for example. So we had in our river cruise, we had out of the whole trip, we had to purchase 2 additional cruises. We had one that was included in the morning. We bought one for the afternoon, whereas in the ultra luxury, they'll be all included. You just have your choice. All drinks at any time, not just the wine and beer. Gratuities would be included. In terms of accommodations, it's a cut above, and also in quality and unbelievable service. So kind of thing where you walk into the bar and they remember your name. and they remember what you drank yesterday. So on a typical river cruise, there's essentially 4 decks. There's the top deck, which is outside, and hold on, not a sequence. So this is the top deck. So it's all garden chairs on the top. You can sit, relax, and as you're driving through, like we had on the Rhine Gorge, you're just taking it all in. That's what you would enjoy. The Royal deck, which was this deck here, this is where most of your cabins are. In our ship was all the panorama rooms, and you'll see a picture of that shortly. And then you have some royal suites. There's just 2 of them, and there's like 1.5 times the size of the panorama room. And then the middle deck is all panorama rooms. I'll show you that shortly. And then the lower deck, it's almost below the water level, just have a window at the top. And here we are. So here's the major differences in the cabin collection. So on the bottom, you have the deluxe stateroom with just the windows on the top. The panorama room, which is what we had, which is the patio doors type thing. It slides all the way open. So that's a full wall opening. And we were on an Avalon ship. So an Avalon, they were quite brilliant in the way they did it. The floor layout, the room layouts, is that the bed is, you're lying in bed and you're looking straight out. You're not looking out the side. So that was a great thought. And then the Royal Suite, like I said, 1.5 times the size of the panorama. And I actually went into it. Some of our neighbors we got friendly with, we went in there. They have a couple of TVs, living room. Don't really see where we're going to use it much because we're not in the rooms that much as it is. We're always out touring. So next, this is actually our ship. It's a picture I took of our ship while we were on the Rhine. So that was our cabin. We have bikes to use on either on the excursions or just you want to take a bike, go out and ride around. They're there available for you. There's a picture of the lounge, and I couldn't resist taking a picture, including a picture of going through the canal. So on our cruise, we went from Basel, Switzerland, all the way up to Amsterdam, and we went through I think 12 different locks, and they were all just like this. So they had to warn you not to touch the side walls of the canal because you can easily just reach out and touch them. And they were that close to the walls. So our tour was called the Romantic Rhine, with 3 nights in Lake Como and 1 night in Lake Lucerne and Mount Pilatus. So it was 4 nights on land prior. So we're in Lake Como. We landed. They met us at the airport. Our transfers were included. They picked us up right away. We got on the road to Lake Como, and we had a day to explore on our own. The second day, we did the Lake Como walking sightseeing tour that was included, and the boat trip of Lake Como. You got to see all the homes of the rich and famous. Well, we drove by the homes of the rich and famous, George Clooney and Richard Branson, and the list is long. And then the third day, we had a free day. So what we did was we took the train and we went to Milan, and we went to see the Leonardo da Vinci's Last Supper. We went to see the Duomo, and that's a picture of Duomo right there. So it was massive. It's quite impressive. This day was actually one of the highlights. It was a transfer day from Lake Como to Lucerne. We were in a first-class train to Switzerland, and the countryside was amazing. The green, the lush green, the mountains, the rivers, it was unbelievable. The pictures here don't bear justice to it because I was taking it through the window of the train, and it was kind of difficult to get one without some kind of reflection, but did our best. Then we did a walking tour of Lucerne that night, which we also got inundated with rain that day, and we got drenched, but that's another story. Here's another one of the highlights for us. We had loved this cruise. Mount Pilatus, a 7,000-foot high mountain. We took a gondola, actually is 2 gondolas to the top. It's over about 45 minutes to get to the top. We spent about half the day there. We were in the clouds at the top. It was something to experience. And then the bus took us to Basel, Switzerland, where we got onto the ship and we cruised to breathtaking, Germany. Next day, more tours. Colmar, Freiburg, in France and Germany. As you can imagine, the river runs along the border of France and Germany, so we alternate between the two. And if you're ever looking for a cuckoo clock, you can just go to Freiburg. There's tons of them there. More tours in Strasbourg and Heidelberg, but I didn't want to inundate you with more pictures of churches and stuff. So this part of the tour was amazing. The ride, sailing down the Rhine Gorge, mountains on the side of you, castles all around. We were just sitting on the top deck of the ship and just taking it all in, sitting with friends that we just made, and it was a wonderful, relaxing tour, just sitting on the ship. And the picture in the top was our gang, if you will, in a restaurant in Rudesheim. Cologne, we had a tour, included the cathedral. That's the inside and the outside. It's world famous, the cathedral. And up to Amsterdam, where there's millions of bikes and canals and all these kind of homes and buildings that you'll never see anywhere else in the world. So quite an experience. And then the last day, we got off the ship. The transfer took us to the airport. Like, we were treated first class the minute we got off the plane to the minute they dropped us off at the airport. Really amazing experience, and one that we're going to repeat again. So, and that's it for me.
Thank you so much, Rick. So that was great. And I'll tell you from my own experience, I've done 3 different river cruises. I've done the Mekong, the Rhine, and the Mississippi, all very, very different experiences. But if you've never done a river cruise, you really do need to do a river cruise. It's quite a different experience from ocean cruising. So we are going to move on to the Q&A. So you still have an opportunity to put in your questions. We have been saving the questions that have come in so far, and we'll get started with those. But feel free to pop your questions in there now. And also, for those of you that have just joined us recently, make sure you put your name and where you're watching from, and then you'll be entered for the prize giveaway at the end. So I'm going to pass it over to Linda to take on asking the questions to our agents.
Amazing. Thank you, Tina. So we have a bunch of questions here, which is great. And we're going to open it up to all of our agents. And we're going to start with Sandra Lynn, who asked, we are looking at going in June 2024. Do you have any group rates? We usually cruise with Celebrity.
That's a Norway question.
Could be, yes. So I'm thinking you're thinking about next year, perhaps next June. And yes, we do have group rates for those sailings. We have a lot of great group rates in Celebrity, specifically with all of our cruise lines as well. And of course, with Celebrity, the group rates include your classic beverage package as well as your Wi-Fi. So you get a really nice complete package with that. So definitely pop us an email if you're interested in looking deeper into certain itineraries. We can see where Celebrity is going at that point in time. But absolutely, we've got lots of group rates lined up for the next coming years.
Amazing. Let's get you to Norway. So the next question comes from Catherine. General question. If we book a cruise to Norway for 2006, let's say with Holland, is it considered a large ship? If the government of Norway stops all large ships, can we get our cruise refunded?
So I think we're still learning a lot more about what that means and when the timeline is going to be and what it actually will entail. But I would imagine that would be considered to be a larger ship. The bigger lines would be considered that versus what Rick was speaking to with the smaller ships, which might be more able to go through the fjord area. But I'm absolutely certain that there would be a very good refund policy in the event that your cruise is ever canceled. That's, we would never want to see somebody sign up for something they can't actually take. So we also keep a good eye on those kinds of changes as they happen. And we would be proactively looking and reaching out to our contacts in the cruise line industry to make sure that we understand the implications to anybody who's already booked and make sure that we get them all set up.
Yeah, and if I can just add to that, it's actually not even the size of the ship that's the issue. It's the alternative fuel source.
Yeah.
So right now, I believe they're saying that it needs to be LNG or another type of fuel source. And maybe Rick, you can pipe in here because you might know a little bit more about this than I do. But I don't believe at this time there actually is even ships that would qualify to go into the fjords with the rules. So I think there's probably still some discussions going on there about, how they're going to end up and whether they're going to start allowing, ships with some sort of alternative fuel source. But anyways, Rick, did you want to add on to that?
Yeah, it's more of a sustainability issue, and it's the type of fuel being used. And none of this is final. It's just a high level of discussion. It's the pressure, what's the right word for it? There's groups that are pressuring the government to put controls on these things with good reason.
Mm-hmm.
But as Tina said, not all the ships qualify, and there's no rules defined yet. So it's still to be finalized, the subject. And you can be sure that the cruise lines would not be scheduling their ships if they thought they were going to cancel all of them. So their fingers much more in the heartbeat than we are at this point. But we'll keep you all informed. And Catherine, thank you. It's a good question. I'll keep you informed on that one. Next question.
Thank you. And I did pop a link in the chat, so hopefully everybody can see that. That's to a blog we did about Norway Now that gives you some links to some of the information on that as well. So our next question comes from Louise. It says, would you say each port in Norway needs an excursion, or can you do a mix of self-tours and excursions?
I would say a mix is what I always lean towards. So I like to do a little bit of research before, I sail, of course. And there's certain ports where I think you do need to have something organized. So, for example, if you want to go to, that monument in the North Circle, then you need to get there somehow. So you don't want to just get off the boat and say, how am I going to figure this out? It's quite a taxi ride if you were to go that route. So having things planned on those bigger days is important. But I also really enjoy just taking in what's there. So sometimes that means just wandering around town and grabbing a coffee or a hot chocolate in a little cafe and just finding out where I can get lost and just seeing what I can find out in the area. So I'm also a big fan of hop on, hop off buses. They do have a few of them. It's a good way to get an orientation to the highlights of the town, but definitely looking at where the ship lines are recommending you go to visit on their shore excursions gives a really good indication as to what you should see while you're there. So that's, kind of my first place of research to say, is there a whole list of very vast types of excursions and what's piquing my interest? What might be something I'd want to book ahead of time versus, sometimes they're a little bit lighter and I like to change it up a little bit and just say, I'm going to go and get off the boat and just see what I can find for the day. So I would say it's a place where you can do either or, but definitely a bit of research comes in very handy though. So you're not coming to a port and finding out after your ship is gone back when you talk to your friends that you missed out on a really important piece. So research is definitely important, but talk to any of us advisors and we can point you in the right direction and give you our recommendations.
Great. Well, thank you very much for that. Our next question comes from Lori, and she wanted to know what cruise line you were on, Karen, for the Norway trip, I'm assuming.
For Norway. So I've done 2 Princess and one, the most recent was Royal Caribbean. So Scandinavia as a whole was Princess. The second one, which was the Fjords, was Princess again. And then this last, most recent one was on Jewel of the Seas on Royal Caribbean.
Excellent. And then we have, actually, I'm going to pop both these questions in because they're both from Mima. So the first one is, what is the age range on the river cruise? So
Yeah,
Rick, I think you touched on that.
yeah. So if you picture the crowd that you see on a celebrity ship, that's the crowd that I saw on the river cruise that we were on. So the tech is your guideline. So there's very few kids, if any, and like I said, baby boomers. So people who could have the time to. These are longer trips, so people could have the time and the means to do these trips.
Great. Anyone else have experience that wants to jump in there on what theirs was like? No. All right. And the second question from Mima was the best time to go. So I'm going to guess that is a Norway question, but it could be a river cruise question. It could go either way. So maybe we can answer for both.
Go ahead, Karen.
So for Norway, again, it depends on what you're looking for, but I'd say that the prime summer months are really where you're going to get that sunshine all day long, or daylight all day long, and then the really nice temperatures. Of course, again, if you're looking to see the northern lights, that's not when it's going to happen. You need to go in those shoulder months to get the darkness to see them at their prime.
For the river cruise, I would say it really depends on what you want to see, what kind of experience you want to have. Like if you want to do the Christmas market, that's going to be only at the November, December time frame. If you want to see the tulips in Amsterdam and then in the Netherlands, that's going to be in the springtime. In general, I would say, like we were there in August, so you would think it was very hot, but it wasn't. We were very comfortable. It was a little warm in Lake Como in Milan, but the rest of the time we were fine, just walking around, and no humidity and all that. So I'd say there's no best time. They're all good, depending on what you want to see. And the themed ones, of course, have specific times that they're offered.
Fantastic. So always a good time to river cruise is the answer. So the next one isn't really a question, but I love this, so I'm sharing it because I have the controls. So Sandra Lynn said, I love that you are all sharing firsthand knowledge. It does not get any better than that. And that's why we do this, because I don't think people really know the extent of the knowledge of our travel advisors. So these aren't just people who are like, yeah, I'm selling cruises because it's a job. These are people who are like immersed in this. They love cruising. They've done cruises. They know the ships. They know the destinations, and they want to share all that with you and then help you find your perfect cruise. So Sandra, thank you for that. We really do appreciate it. All right, next question comes from Marie. It says, you didn't mention, you know what, I'm probably going to mess this up, Quasi-Europe?
Quasi-Europe.
Right? Quasi-Europe. Does that mean that you do not offer river cruises from them?
We don't, but we offer a long list of solid cruise lines that we can offer river cruises on: Avalon, Ama Waterways, Viking, Emerald, Talk, Scenic. They're all A class. Uniworld. They're all the A class ships. I mean, we saw some Quasi-Europe sailing along on the river. But we don't offer that one.
Yeah, so if I can just add on to what Rick just said too. So, I mean, we're very careful when we pick our suppliers that we want to work with. There's a whole range of reasons why we work with certain suppliers and don't work with others. What I do know about Quasi-Europe is it is very European based. So think MSC in Europe. So not MSC in the Caribbean, because MSC in the Caribbean is a bit different. It's more 50-50 American European, but Quasi-Europe, it is more of a budget river cruise line. And there will be a lot of Europeans on board. So if you want to look at something similar, we can definitely give you some other options. I think Viking is a great alternative. That would be very much more North American based. So feel free to reach out and ask our agents, and they'll be able to help you with that.
Yeah, and all these cruise lines that I mentioned, that's a good point, Tina. English is the main language of conversation. So the lectures, the cruise director, the staff, all English.
Yeah, it might be. I don't know much about Quasi Europe, but I'm assuming because there'll be so many Europeans on board that it'll be similar like MSC in that you'll have to listen to announcements in other languages and you know you may be spoken to in other languages. I'm not that familiar with the cruise line. We do vet our suppliers pretty good to make sure that what we're offering is we're standing behind it.
Fantastic. Thank you. So our next question comes from Lori, and she's asking, what about river water levels? Any concerns? Too low or too high?
Okay, so it's a good question because for those who are not aware, sometimes the river levels can be high, and so it makes it a little difficult to pass under the bridges, or they could be too low. Neither of which we didn't find any of those situations. When it does occur, your cruise continues on. What they do is they stop. You'll get into a bus. They get you to the other side, and your cruise continues on another ship. So they have a plan B for all of that.
Awesome. That's good information. I did not know that. All right. Our next question comes from Marie. It looked like you cruised at night as well. Did you feel you missed out on seeing things because the cruising was at night?
No, no. The most beautiful part of our cruise was the Rhine Gorge, and so they planned it that way so that we were sailing during the day on those days, and that was to me was one of the highlights. Just sitting there, relaxing, taking it all in as you sail by. Castles to your left, castles to your right. I mean, wow. So at night, they know what they're doing. They're not going to miss anything special by planning the night sailing.
Excellent. Thank you. And our next question comes to us from Betty. She said, I heard that if the water level is either too high or too low, that you may end up going by bus. Is this true? I think you just spoke to that, but did
Yeah,
you want to?
you won't go by bus the whole way. You'll go by bus that section of the river that's affected. And I can't imagine that lasts too long because if you saw the number of ships going by, there's a lot of economy being dependent upon those rivers. So they must have figured this out by now. Those are all these ships are designed for low water. So it's a very low hull, is it?
Yeah, I was just gonna say too, is if that is a big concern, there are some cruise lines that do have the shorter hulls than others. So that may be what your cruise line is because you know that if anyone's going to get through, it's going to be that cruise line. Yeah. But it doesn't have. It's very sporadic. It doesn't happen every year, and it doesn't happen to every river.
Fantastic. Thank you. And our last question comes from Rocco. And they ask, besides Europe, as my wife doesn't like to fly, is there any place we can drive to in the US where we can do a river cruise? We are from Montreal, Quebec.
Well, bonjour, Rocco. I'm in Montreal also. Yes, indeed, there are. The American Cruise Line has many rivers that we have sailings on. And you don't even have to drive all that far, to be honest. And I believe, and I'll check it out for you, just send me an email. I think Viking does some of the Great Lakes as well. So
yeah, for somebody who's done American Cruise Lines, 35 states. They sail in 35 states, if you can believe it. So there's a lot of rivers in the US, and it is amazing. I never thought it was on my bucket list. I went, and now it's definitely something I want to do again. It's just, it's such a very nice luxury experience. You're right into the cities or towns, just like, the European river cruises. It's great.
We actually have Viking stops in Port Colborne, which is a local town here, and when they go through the Great Lakes. So they go through all the locks and the Welland Canal, It's very, very popular. We did some tour guiding with them in the summer, some walking tours, and the guests absolutely raved about it. It was one of those places I never would have thought would be popular for cruising, but people really did enjoy it. So they're out there.
Yeah, they have some that go all the way down the Great Lakes, all the way to the other end. I mean, it's
Yes.
something else.
Yeah, it's
We
quite
can
amazing.
start and stop in Toronto on some of them.
They do actually. That's their debarkation, embarkation for some.
Well, it's not a commuter line, but
Well, and I was going to say, I actually was headed to Niagara Falls because we have family out that way. And as I'm driving over the Skyway, I literally sent the group a picture. I'm like, there's a cruise ship in the canal. So it was a bit of an eye opener for me too. But it would be an amazing way to see it. That's for sure.
For sure. It's not for the faint at heart, though, if you're getting a quote. It can be a little pricey to do those rivers. But I guess you make it up. You save it in airfare.
And we did get another question in, and this one comes from Marie. What are the bottom deck rooms like on a river cruise?
I'll just scan back to the picture. Where was it? Here. The one on the bottom right. That's the lower level. So the window's at the top level above the water, obviously, and the rest of it, where there's wall, is below water.
So kind of like a basement apartment.
Yeah, the windows are the same style of windows. Yeah, exactly.
To be honest, you don't spend a lot of time in your room on a river cruise. There's so many things, like so many excursions, and you're docked so much during the day that you're off and you're out and about. So
I can tell you that these are the first cabins to go on a ship. A lot of people realize that whereas those panorama rooms are beautiful, they're not in the rooms that much. And obviously you're going to pay a little bit more for those other rooms. So this is a good compromise. You're on the ship, you're living the experience, and you're saving some dollars.
All good things. All right. And we have a question from Mike. And Mike asked, are the US river cruises as expensive as the European ones?
It's a similar price range, I would say.
mm-hmm.
And there's no compromise in the quality either. It's a high, as Tina said shortly a few minutes ago, it's a good luxury cruise experience. So they're not going to shortchange you or just charge you more. You're getting the full experience on a U.S. river cruise.
Yeah, I mean, when we went on American Cruise Lines, here I am picturing this old rusty tin can paddle wheeler, but and they do have paddle wheelers in their fleet, but honestly, it wasn't like that at all. It was luxury. It was really beautiful. So, and the rooms were bigger. I find that the rooms are bigger. They're bigger than ocean stay rooms.
So I just want to address the point of expensive. It may cost a little bit more, but when you add up the value you get, like in terms of all the excursions, everything that's included, and compare it to an ocean, it's not that much more. It's a little bit more, but not tremendous.
Perfect.
One of the things I've never really brought this up before, but one of the things that I really like about luxury cruising and river cruising is the ship tends to stay in port an extra day at the beginning and the end. And that means that you don't have to fly in the day early and get the hotel, because that hotel is going to be $300 to $500 US plus meals, plus drinks. Then you've got to get yourself to the ship. Whereas if you fly in the day of, you usually get your transfers included. If you buy, you do your flight through the cruise, you save quite a bit of money just in that. And that typically comes with a lot of the luxury in river cruise lines.
And these cruise lines also have various promotions through the year. Some of them will have free air. It's not all the time, but they'll be on select sailings, and those go fast. Or reduced air, or gratuities. I mean, the onboard credit. You'll see a full range of promotions, to help you in your decision making.
Linda's been popping links into the chat, so.
I have been. There's actually I just popped a link in there, and it's on our YouTube page, and also on our website. And it's a link to a luxury cruising webinar, but it did have a presentation from American Cruise Lines all about their cruising. So if you're interested in American cruises and looking at those, that was a great presentation to watch as well. And I think that is it for our questions.
We made it through all the questions. That's amazing. Linda, do you want to give something away?
I do want to give something away. I love giving stuff away. I hadn't thought about what to give away though. I had a I had a busy day. So I am going to go with a water bottle because those are always handy, and it was a very warm day today, and I wish I had had my water bottle with me. So today it's going to be a water bottle. I am going to pop over and switch this to our giveaway draw, and if by some chance it happens that the giveaway chooses us, we will just draw again. And if you win, please email linda@vacationsforcanadians.com, and I'll reach out on how to collect your prize. So here we go. Last night we were giving away to ourselves a lot.
Mm-hmm. Oh, Lori. Oh, Lori, I think you've already won 2 water bottles. What if you contact Linda and did something else?
Well, we'll hook you up with something different.
Did Lori already win the water bottle before?
I think she did. I think Lori's very lucky, so she's going to have the whole VFC collection soon.
Linda can let you know what else we have.
Oh, she said yes. Please draw again.
Oh no! Well, do you want something else? Like,
yeah, we can get you something else. We have other things. We're gonna give Lori the prize. As generous as that was, yes. We will give her the prize. So, yes. Lori, I think I have your contact info.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, we have lots of swag to give away.
Mm-hmm. Well, thanks everybody for joining us. And looks like we're ending right on time here. It's 8:02 according to my computer. And so we'll let you get back to the rest of your night. Thank you to my team for your amazing knowledge and sharing it, being so generous to share it with everybody. I really do think that we are getting a lot out of this. And thank you for everybody for joining us. And we'll see you, remember, not next week, because we're all going to be at our team building event, but the week after we will be back with some new topics. So see you then.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Good night.
Bye. Bye.